yeah. Waking up, shaking yesterday's blues, yeah. Turn the TV off, it's bad news, man.
Welcome to The Sports Show. Good morning and welcome to The Sports Show here on Lake Effect Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Kirby. We have a great show for you guys this morning. We're going to be talking about all things Cleveland Cavaliers as they open the season against Toronto in Toronto tonight. But also we're going to get to, later in the show, we're going to get to the Nick Bosa situation, about that situation. But first, I want to talk about those Cleveland Cavaliers as they will be opening the season tonight in Toronto against the Raptors. The Cavaliers are a new-look team, but, I mean, looking at how good the team, I mean, you've got, some young guys, Colin Sexton, but when you look at how good, you look at some of the veterans, coming in, Kevin Love, Larry Nance, those guys, you look at how well they played last year, this will be the first year without LeBron, but when you look at how good they are, it shows a lot. When you look at, as I said before, they're going to be without LeBron for the first time, or for the first time. But these other guys, they'll have to step it up a little bit. But I mean, it should be a good test, in Toronto, with the Raptors, after they acquired, Kawhi Leonard and got their teams a little bit, there's a couple new guys on that team. But, when you look at how good the Cavs are, winning the East last year, making it to the finals again, this year there may not be that expectation, because, the Cavs are without LeBron, but, I mean, it'll be a little bit different seeing the Cavs without LeBron, after seeing LeBron here for so long. But when you look at how good the Raptors are, you look at how good they played last year. They played very well. But there's also those dark horse teams in the East. You look at, the 76ers, last night, even though they did lose to the Celtics 105-87, it was still a great game to see. People were saying, that's going to be, the Eastern Conference Finals, come March. But, it'll be, it's the opening night of the season. So, anything can happen in a 82 game season. So, looking at this game with the Cavs and Raptors, this will really be a show of how good the Cavs can be without LeBron. Can they, play the full 48 minutes, never not getting down on themselves and, playing good basketball and playing team basketball. Because, you're going to have Colin Sexton coming off the bench and, you'll have some of those newer guys coming in and, getting their first taste of, the NBA regular season and, just that grind of an 82 game season. So, but, as I said before, there's going to be a lot of other teams, competing for the Eastern Conference. You look at, as I said before, the Celtics and even the 76ers. But, it should be a fun game to watch with the Cavs and Raptors. It'll be a fun one, to see, how good Colin Sexton is, when, he's, going up against some, the best of the best. In regards to Kawhi Leonard, playing up against Kawhi Leonard. But, it should be, as I said before, it should be a heck of a game to watch. We'll have an update for you guys, come. Hopefully we're talking about a W on Monday morning, I hope. But now I want to get to a story that broke last night in regards to Nick Bosa. There was word that he withdrew from Ohio State and decided to just focus on his rehab and focus on the on getting prepared for the NFL draft. Now that was a huge story coming out because there's the talk of the one and done type of thing where like guys are I mean I get Bosa not everybody may think that's a good decision on his part because school is more important than athletics. I mean if you're going after a multi-million-dollar contract, I mean of course you're going to take that, but when you look at how Bosa is, he's a great football player. He's played so well. He's lived up to the hype. Let's just put it that way. He's lived up to the hype of having that name on the back of his jersey. Having his brother who's now in the NFL playing solid football. I mean, granted it was probably a tough decision for him because he wanted to probably stay in school and still play football, but for him to say, okay, I'm going to focus on rehabbing his injury and focus on the draft. It's going to be hard for Ohio State, to have a guy try to fill in the spot that Bosa had on the defensive side of the football. But yeah, that should be a test. When Ohio State takes on Purdue on Saturday night, having no Nick Bosa, excuse me, not having Bosa there in the lineup. It'll be interesting to see how the defense plays without one of their star linebackers. But you talk about maybe he'll go to maybe after his NFL career he'll go back to school. I mean, who knows? But when you talk about him playing for so long, almost playing the full 4 years, and deciding I'm gonna withdraw from drop out of school and focus on rehabbing the injury that he suffered on September 20th against TCU, and then focus on the draft coming up. I mean, some people may say, hey, that's a great decision to make, because you're going after, a possible multi-million-dollar contract. But, when you've got, school and trying to, focus on that as well, it's also the point that, he is a great player. I mean, he is going to be, last I checked, he was on Mel Kiper's top, on his draft board, he was a projected number one pick. So, when you look at that also, he probably was looking at all that and saying, what, if I am a projected number one pick, I should probably, withdraw from Ohio State and focus on, rehabbing my injury and, focus on the upcoming draft in April. But, when you look at that, it all goes to show that, some of these decisions guys make, maybe it's for the better, but, sometimes those decisions come back to haunt them in the long run. But, when you look at, he played, he's a spectacular player. I could see him no doubt being the number one pick in next year's draft and this coming year's draft. But it all goes to show that, most people think, well, education's top of the line. That's why they call it sports and that extracurriculars. The education that's the top priority. But in this situation, when you look at he's, as I said before, he's possibly going after a multi-million-dollar contract, in the NFL. He's probably going to be the number one pick in this coming year's draft. There's, as I said before, there's people who will say, oh, that's a bad decision. He should, stay in school and, still focus on rehabbing, but, stay in school. But then there's those other people that will say, well, he made a great decision because, focusing on the draft is, that's his dream, that's his goal after college, to go into the NFL and, do what his brother's doing, is playing good football in the NFL and getting drafted. So, it's a situation of, there's the good side to that decision and there's a bad side to that decision. It's both ways, but, when I first heard about this, I was once shocked because, how can a guy, how's Ohio State going to be able to fill that spot, that Bosa had, on the defensive side of the football. And how are they going to have a guy come up so big and just, fill that spot? It's going to be it'll be hard to see how Ohio State will be able to defend the run without their star linebacker, on the defensive side of the ball. But, as the mentality is in sports, next man up. So hopefully the next man is up and ready to go, and we'll see how that goes on We'll see how everything goes Saturday against Purdue. Again, that's going to be a 7:30 start on ABC. So it'll be a primetime game, under the lights. So should be a heck of a game to watch. It is a conference game, so this has a lot of, one, playoff implications and two, conference championship implications, involved with this game. But, as I said before, when you look at Bosa, he's played so well. He's carried the defensive line, throughout the season, and the thing is that if he was withdrawing for another reason besides rehabbing or any of that, then there'd be that look of, wait a minute, you're really gonna withdraw from school because of something other than rehabbing and going into the NFL draft. But when they said hey, he's gonna be rehabbing his injury and then he's going to be focusing on the NFL draft, that's why he withdrew from school. You can't blame the guy for, going after the big bucks. You don't get paid in college, so there's that other side of it, But, if that's what he wants to do, let him, he should do that, and, hopefully all goes well for him, and, it'll be a difficult game against Michigan come November 24th. And, we'll see how that goes with him, how Ohio State will be able to handle the Michigan game without Bosa and, but, you also think about, how good Bosa, as I said before, how good Nick Bosa really is. As I said before, he lived up to the name, that name on the back of his jersey. He lived up to it. His brother Joey left a great legacy at Ohio State, and I think Nick just wanted to carry that legacy, and he did just that. And when you talk about how good, as before, how good he is, he's an incredible defensive player for Ohio State. He was an incredible defensive player for Ohio State. So for him to do this was a great. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he gets to play in the NFL. I hope. He shows the talent that he showed at Ohio State, and he shows that, at the next level. So when we come back, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more Cavs and a little bit more Ohio State. You're listening to the Sports Radio Show here on Lake Effect Radio.
I don't mind you coming here, wasting all my time. 'Cause when you're standing oh so near, I kinda lose my mind. It's not the perfume that you wear, it's not the ribbons in your hair. And I don't mind you coming here and wasting all my time. I don't mind you hanging out your sleep. I guess you're just what I needed. Just what I needed. I needed someone to feed. I guess you're just what I needed. Just what I needed. I needed someone to bleed. I don't mind you coming here and wasting all my time. 'Cause when you're standing oh so near, I kinda lose my mind, yeah. It's not the perfume that you wear, it's not the ribbons in your hair. I don't mind you coming here and wasting all my time. I guess you're just what I needed. Just what I needed. I needed someone to feed. I guess you're just what I needed. Just what I needed. I needed someone to bleed. I guess you're just what I needed. Just what I needed. I needed someone to feed. I guess you're just what I needed. Just what I needed. I needed someone to bleed. Yeah, yeah. So bleed me. You're just what I needed. You're just what I needed. You're just what I needed. Yeah, yeah,
And we're back here on Lake Effect Radio, the sports show. I'm now joined by Jeremiah. Now, Jeremiah, talking about Nick Bosa earlier, do you feel like you made the right decision about, with dropping out of school and, focusing on, rehab and getting ready for the NFL draft?
Going to the draft, not necessarily worrying about that. Dropping out of school, yes.
But, I mean, there's always that statement of, education is more important than extracurricular, the sports and that whole thing. But, I mean, I get, as you said before, I get the whole rehab. I get that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he didn't have to do it and then had to come out and say, oh, no, it's also because, to focus on the draft. That, you look at most guys,
Well, it's many players they think about now, but what after football?
Right. Well, good example, Baker Mayfield, he stayed in school and he played football and, he had I don't know if he had any injuries, but, he was able to manage that and he, you look at some of these guys, they're great
Well,
athletes.
he's the best example, like Beanie Wells.
Well, that's true.
He left the NFL and that he ended up going back to school, finishing what he didn't. Then he has a master's too.
I think so.
I swore him saying off of the Tailgate 19 that I actually listened to the Serta broadcast this
Right.
past Sunday.
100%.
Yeah, he has a master's from someplace. I forgot. I think it's OU. So necessarily, many people they get it caught up with the draft, but the thing is, what happens if you get that injury? Like, let's say Ryan. Look at what happened to him.
Who?
From Pittsburgh, Ryan.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Sagier.
Oh, Ryan Shazier, right.
Yeah, him. What happened if he, couldn't go back to football?
He probably would have went back to school.
He has all 4 years and that,
Right.
and he finished it out. But
Right. Or
and
even,
you think classes change,
right.
degrees change.
Right.
You drop out now, you're not going to be able to say, oh, well, this is what I still
Right.
had to do, and that. You might have to go back and redo things.
Right. Or even look at, James Conner, all the, when he had cancer, he probably wasn't in the classroom all that much.
No.
But he still, he still came out and, But I mean, you look at these guys that have those obstacles, during school. I mean, they still have time to do. I mean, they still have ways
Yeah.
of okay, I can do my schoolwork this way.
Roy Hall, that was living off campus in a apartment, and that he was able to figure out some way to afford that.
Right.
So
I mean, and you even look at what was the guy from Louisville, Kevin Ware, when he had that horrendous leg injury. He still, I mean, I bet you he still was able to get through school. I mean, even with the whole rehab process. I mean, that was a very serious injury, but.
yeah, I get NFL draft, blah blah blah. That's all well and good. The only
Right.
thing is, what after that?
Right. What's your plan? Like, do you have a plan after,
You're going to go back to school. You're going to have to go and probably retake the classes you're currently taking. You're going to have to finish up. You
Right.
might have a few different other things that you're going to have to go back and probably redo because the requirements changed.
Right.
Especially, let's say he plays his whole career. He might 14 years, let's say.
Okay.
Things are going to change by then.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you look at, we were talking, I think it was what was it, yesterday or a couple days ago, but like before the afternoon show on Monday about, how OGTs, there's no more,
Yeah.
that's all over with, that's, there's not, that is not as long gone, like you're saying with all the changes.
God bloody look, he wasn't paying for school probably. He was on scholarship and that.
Right.
So that was nothing to him.
Right. I mean, it was,
You might as well take care of the free, or might as well take advantage of the free ride.
right.
You know?
I mean, and as I was saying before you came on, he lived up to that name on the back of his jersey. He lived up to that Bosa name, playing so well at Ohio State. I mean, he reminded me a lot of Joey, about a lot of his brother Joey. I mean, just the way. I mean, looking at all the draft boards. I mean, you look at Mel Kiper's draft board. He has Bosa going number 1. I mean, I feel like that's a good reason to drop. I mean, if you're looking to be a top pick in the NFL and you've got an injury, you've got to
But
rehab.
people are going to be still a little hesitant in that. See, he didn't play, a full year.
Right.
Then, the draft workouts and that, well and good, but that's not, a 300-pound guy and that's going to be blocking you and that.
Right. And like I know it was, what was I watching? I think it was SportsCenter this morning. I was watching. They're saying, like, the downsides of it, and then they're like, well, wait a minute. There's already a lot of game film. It's not like he hardly played any games. There's plenty of game film that people can go and watch.
But rebounding from the injury.
Well, that's true. I mean, but
Yeah, you can, leg press, whatever, bench, whatever, and that.
Yeah.
But still, you haven't been in the game since what, September?
so yeah, since September 15th.
So,
So, I mean, that's a pretty. I mean, it's already October. What is that?
not
October.
letting people get better, not letting teams get better.
Right. I mean, it's already October 17th, and he hasn't been on the field in
And
a while.
he's not going to be, with a team or going against whoever.
Right. I mean, he won't be playing in the Michigan game, which was the.
No, I mean, in between, even with the draft, they don't have a full team, thing put together.
Right. I mean, there's no scrimmages that they have.
Especially because he's not a junior, right?
Um,
Or he's a junior, not a senior, right?
I think he's a June.
So he's not going to be in the Senior Bowl.
Right.
So they're not going to get game film or see action against anybody there. If I was an NFL team, yeah, I had great talent in that, but the after effect of it, you're not going to be able to get any film or see progress in that. And,
Right.
benches, hot, jumping in it, that doesn't mean squat. It sort of means something, but it doesn't take, doesn't put your mind at ease.
Right.
I think in a way it might hurt him just a little.
He's actually a junior. So he's a
So yeah, he's not going to be in the Senior Bowl.
now. So I mean,
So it's not going to be no filmer proving, hey, I'm back to top form there.
right. I mean, unless he can show, at his pro days or those workouts that he has, hey, I can.
And
know.
even that's not full game tilt.
Right. That's just all a bunch of practice dummies and the stuff
Yeah.
that they do. But I mean, I mean, and you also think about, he has, he's got the name, Bosa. Everybody thinks, oh, he's gonna be a star. Do you think that also has an effect on, where people put him on their draft boards, like with Mel Kiper saying, oh, he's gonna be a top pick? Do you think that's also because of, not just because of his, I mean, he has great talent, but also because of that name,
In a way, but God forbid someone else comes out and looks like an all-star.
Right. I mean, even like, I wonder what year, I think either Tua Tagovailoa or Jalen Hurts, I think one of them's a senior. So, I mean, even one of them could very easily be a top pick in the draft.
Well, and like another defensive end, and that comes out of nowhere. God forbid,
Right.
then he'll jump to number 2. It wouldn't be bad to, still rehab skull thing. Then, if you maybe playoffs, a bowl game, come in to show, hey, world, I still got it.
Right.
Doesn't hurt. It's still a little bit of a risk, but it still will show it's worthwhile to secure yourself.
Right.
Well, what do I know? I'm just a community college person.
Right. And I mean, you also think about, he did play all of last year. He played he did technically play a full year last year, so this wasn't really, you were saying how he wasn't, like, he really didn't play a full year this year. He played a full year last year, and he played phenomenal,
Yeah. But now, in his playing years at Ohio State, he didn't go and, he missed 2 months.
True.
In between. Even though they'll still have it.
Right.
Teams are going to be a little bit questioned.
Right.
Which I don't blame them.
I mean, and even the injury concerns, like, is this a frequent thing that may happen, having him get injured, frequently.
Well, you look at his brother being
yeah,
injured now.
Right. I believe he's still out. I don't think he's.
No, he didn't play against the Browns.
No.
So, it's pros and cons of what's going on.
Right.
And any NFL team that's not taking this into consideration, they're flat stupid.
Right.
They're drinking way too much Kool-Aid.
Right. Yeah,
So.
and I mean, you think about Ohio State's schedule. He played in. I mean, there were some marquee games he played in. I mean, did he play in the game against Penn State?
No.
No. So I mean, he really didn't play in any.
He was out 2 weeks, I thought, prior to that.
So he only played in the one marquee game, which was about, I think, like the first half of the TCU game. That was
Yeah.
But I mean, he didn't play any big, Big Ten games. I mean, I feel like that's the only thing he doesn't have to show for.
If he came back and at least played in a bowl game,
Right.
or whatever, it would have helped him.
Oh, for sure.
Even though, it's a risk. Yeah, I can get injured again, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But it would have possibly helped him.
Right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Cavs. Now, they have their season opener tonight against Toronto in Toronto. What are your thoughts about tonight's game? Like, do you have any,
We'll see now what the team looks like.
Yeah,
Can they come through it and put together not horrible season, or will it be the mediocre?
right. I mean, there really won't be those expectations anymore, considering they're without LeBron. Considering LeBron isn't here, so there won't be that expectation or that pressure of, getting to the playoffs, getting to the NBA Finals.
It's sort of the pressure especially because many of them, while we can make the playoffs, our fans are thinking that.
Right.
It's still going to be the expectation of it.
Right. But I mean, you've got
but can they pull it off?
Right. Can they pull it off with young guys like Colin Sexton and,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Sexton, I feel like, is the only guy that hasn't played, he played very well at Alabama, and I mean, but I feel like he's the only guy that really has to gel with the other guys as far as playing that.
Clarkson and all that.
Right.
They had here and there spurts last year.
Right.
Now the pressure's on them of can they produce on a regular basis instead of just these freak games every so often.
Right.
And they go into hibernation.
Right. And as I said Monday morning, with Kyle Korver, him, getting on spurts of, just hitting, three-pointers, like crazy. Can he do that, in an 82-game season? Can he have those spurts, in every game, once like once in a while during
Like
each game.
Sexton, good example. He's a rookie. If he messes up, not many people are going to completely judge.
Right.
The veterans,
If they
second-year guys or whatever,
yeah.
they're going to start judging and have higher
Right.
expectation.
I mean, they're gonna have high expectations for Kevin Love and Larry Nance Jr. and Clarkson and
But
Rodney
the
Hood.
best example is the mess up with Smith over the playoffs. Fans are going to be definitely hard on him,
Right.
but he's paying the big bucks, and not only he's been in the league long enough
Right.
that he should be held accountable to a good high standard
Right. I mean,
compared to Sexton.
Right. Because I mean, you look at what Smith did in Game 1 of the NBA Finals last year. Not realizing how much time was on the clock, and taking the ball back, and then realizing that there was hardly any time left on the game clock, and then that basically
Yeah.
cost us that game because he made that mistake. So, do you think that'll have also do you think people will still have that play on their minds? When they watch JR play.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be held accountable for a high standard. Definitely after that.
Oh yeah, I mean, and then you also guys like Jetty Osman, guys that were hitting in stride,
Yeah.
into the end of the year. And I mean, when I watched the Celtics game last night, man, it's going to be a tough Eastern Conference. I mean, you watched the Philadelphia and Boston. I mean, that game was. I mean, the Cavs are going to have a tough road ahead of them as far as trying to regain that. Trying to climb that mountain to the Eastern Conference. I mean, because you got these other teams that have these young guys. Like with Philadelphia, they got
Yeah.
Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Those guys. And then you also get the Celtics with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Kyrie and and even Gordon Hayward being back since the leg injury in opening night last year against the Cavs. So
It'll
I mean,
be interesting.
Right.
It'll be interesting even what shakes out in the off season for the NBA.
right.
Because Kyrie's contract's done after this year.
Right, so for all we know, he may come back, but I mean,
It's a good possibility, especially because now the team's really his. Love's sort of the Love doesn't want to be the complete leader, the
right,
number one guy.
right,
He'll take, especially right now, he sort of will take it, but it's not really. He does want to be the flashy guy.
right. Yeah, and I mean, given that for all we know, Kyrie may go to LA and join LeBron. I mean, for all we know, that could
No,
very easily happen.
I think their bridge is sort of burnt. Unless they had other conversations since then, but I think in a way that's sort of a little bit burnt.
So you see Kyrie coming back after this year, and
Possibly.
Now wait. What if LeBron comes back at the same point? Like, what if after 1 year in LA, LeBron decides to come back, and then Kyrie decides to come back? What happens then?
I don't see LeBron after 1 year, unless Ball and his father and that
Yeah,
are really unbearable.
and pushing his buttons. I mean,
And
we're
that,
trying to get a partnership with LeBron's with Nike and this and that.
or Ball goes and really starts going after LeBron and throwing him under the bus and that.
Mhm.
I don't see him necessarily wanting to need. Okay. I don't see him wanting to deal with it. And I don't blame him. Here and there, what, the father does or Ball does and that, I don't blame him if at some point in time it's situations behind the scenes and in the media that he says, yeah, I'm done.
Right.
But then in a way I could see LA ditching him
Oh, definitely.
before they ditch LeBron.
Right. And I mean, think about all the stuff that happened with LeBron. With the people painting those murals and then them getting vandalized. Time after time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like LA wants LeBron. It doesn't seem like they are welcoming him with open arms. Given all the stuff that happened with his with the guys, people painting murals and that. But I mean, it all depends. So, but. I mean, when you look at, how good, the Eastern Conference is and how good they are, I mean, it's hard to think about, the Cavs not going into the playoffs. It's hard to think about, this another team, sprouting up and making, a run. The only thing I want to see out of this year is I do not want to see the Warriors three-peat as NBA champions. That's one thing I do not want to see. Because, everybody's going to say, oh, they're a super team, oh, this, oh, that. But the thing is that they just have great talent. The Warriors, they may be a super team in a way, but they just have great talent.
I just want to see Green get punched in the face.
I
never wish much to have something happen to someone, but if an NBA player went up and punched Green in the face and dropped him to the ground, I would be their fan for a long time.
Right. And you think,
because he's just that person. Same exact thing with Curry. If
Right.
someone went up and punched him in the face, we see there with this little attitude in that.
Right.
Someone went up and punched him in the face, I would be laughing, hysterical, and be their fan for forever.
Right. You talk about, people think, I think everybody wants to see, a Celtics Lakers, some sort of a matchup in the NBA Finals, but it could very easily be LeBron could very easily get to the finals with the Lakers in his first year. Who knows? It could.
With what they got, I don't know.
I feel like the only person holding the Lakers back as far as making that sort of run would be Lonzo Ball.
Well, the other new pieces and gelling with everything.
Right, like Lance Stevenson. And
I don't know.
Right.
I can't see them completely making it to the finals. Is it possible? Yes, but
Right.
I don't see it.
Right.
I hate to say it.
Right.
It's like me when LeBron came back. I wasn't really expecting a finals appearance.
His first year back.
No, I didn't expect it.
But with the right guys that we had, that
Yeah.
that first year. But I think with what you're saying, with us, when LeBron came back, then we lost the finals. I feel like that was like expected. Okay, we're gonna lose. We weren't really. We made a great run, and then, for us in 2016 to make that huge run that we did, to come back from down 3-1. I feel like that was, as LeBron said, in his post-game interview with Doris Burke on ABC, he's like, the Lord just. He makes me take the high road or the hard way, and that's just how it is. And I feel like that's what it's.
Well, you think mid-season trade of 3 players and that too,
right?
and that coming into the middle of it, there were a lot of odds against. But then that was also even in the locker room saying between him and everyone and that,
Right.
saying. You got these 3 guys, all this. No one really expected us to be at this point.
Right. But, then there's the talk of, as I said before, super teams. Like, do you believe the Warriors are a super team? Like, do you see them as, like, that?
I just think they're lucky for one. 2, if you went and separated, 2 or 3 people off of that team,
Yep.
it would probably go in shambles.
Right. If you took Kevin Durant and if you took
Durant just, he just won a championship and decided, oh, well, they're offering me money and the opportunity to go there. What the heck?
Right.
He didn't earn it. He just, took the easy way.
He was doing what LeBron did, chasing championships.
Not necessarily. LeBron wasn't really
in Miami. When he went to Miami, he was really chasing that.
But they had the culture. They've been there, done that. He wasn't chasing complete championships. Because you think, how many times did the Heat have championships in their, along the road?
True.
Quite a few times.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to learn about and not only get an NBA championship, you go to an experienced team that's been there, done that. It's sort of
Right.
smart.
Right.
Because that's the best thing. To go and, that's like me, going with, let's say, a business idea. Going and someone that's retired that made, let's say, they they made like $5 million off of something.
Right.
And they're sitting there and, they're giving me advice. I would be stupid not to listen and say, oh, they don't know nothing.
Right.
I would be really dumb
Right.
if I don't go and take their experience.
Right. And then looking at the matchup last night, the Warriors and Thunder, the game ended 108 to 100 in favor of the Warriors.
Mm?
And the Warriors and the Thunder were without Russell Westbrook, mind you. So that also, you think about that. I feel like the team that could beat the Warriors the most would probably either be the Thunder or the Rockets.
Yeah.
Those two teams could very easily, beat the Warriors in a 7-game series, But, it's, you also think about, the Warriors, they have, Kevin Durant. They've got, they got Quinn Cook, these up-and-coming guys, I feel like if there was one person you could take off that team that would make them just go down and just, be the team that they used to be before the stardom, if you took Curry and Durant off of that team, there'd be nothing, in my opinion. Without those two guys, because you look at Curry, he's a three-point nightmare. He shoots the ball incredibly well. And Durant, he's got the length. He can, make plays, in the paint. And if you took those two guys off the Warriors, the Warriors would be nothing. They would. They'd be like the Cavs right now. They'd be like that, not expecting, championship kind of team.
True.
But, if the Cavs can, I hope the Cavs beat the Raptors tonight. I think it'd be fantastic. But at the same time, the Cavs are facing a new look Raptors team, with the addition of Kawhi Leonard and, all that. But,
Yeah.
if the young guys, if Colin Sexton can step up, if he could be that, Kyrie, he kind of, watching him in the preseason, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Kyrie, just that, that reckless guy that just goes to the hole. If there's an opening, he goes.
He will, to a point. He's definitely not going to be that complete.
Right. It'll take a year.
It's
or two.
going to, yeah. It's going to take probably at least 2, maybe
Right.
2, 3.
Right.
But that's even like Kyrie didn't become Kyrie till like the 3rd year.
Right. Till after he won the championship. Until he made that.
Well, even a little bit before that.
Right.
Because, his at least first 2, he was still trying to figure things out.
Right. 'Cause, they were without LeBron, so he was trying to become that, that guy. That could really.
But he was
produce.
struggling at it.
Oh yeah. But,
So it took him at least the 3rd
right.
year, if not almost 4th, to really become that guy.
Right.
Which it's no harm in that. Everyone, especially, whether you come out of high school, whether you come out of college early or college,
Mm-hmm.
they expect a player to be a big guy,
Right.
sort of setting it up to be a failure. You got to have a little bit low expectations.
Right.
If you don't, you're just going to be disappointed in the end.
Right. Now I want to talk a little Cleveland Browns. They'll be taking on the Buccaneers on Sunday. I was listening to the radio coming in. It was 923, and they were saying oh, this is an easy win for the Browns. Do you see that happening with?
Well, from what I seen, we have another wide receiver that's done for the year.
Who's that?
Rod. The number
Oh, it's,
13.
Streeter.
Yeah.
Oh, he's done.
Yeah, he's done.
Oh, I did not know that.
I seen it on Instagram on the thing. Yeah, he's done for the year.
So I did not see that. Yeah, I was gonna say that. I know they signed
I forgot.
I know they signed Perryman, the Ravens, the guy from the Ravens. I know they signed him, but everybody's saying, oh, he's garbage because he can't catch the ball.
Let me look it up really quickly.
But
yeah, he's done for the year.
yeah, that I did not know.
Yeah. This is the revolving door of the wide receivers of the Cleveland Browns. And somebody's got to step up and be the guy besides Landry. They got to step up and go out and find people.
Right. Yeah, because they signed an offensive lineman from their practice squad, and then they signed a receiver, Blake Jackson, to their practice squad. Okay.
Yeah, Rod's done for the...
Yeah. And then the Browns promoted Damari Scott from the practice squad. He was an undrafted rookie from Fresno State. So I feel like Jarvis Landry is going to become that motivator as far as the receiving core. Being like that LeBron.
Yeah.
Helping the receivers out. And
But in a way, he needs help.
oh yeah, he needs help trying to get open and showing Baker Mayfield that, hey, I'm open. Give me the ball. I know on Sunday there were a couple times where he was wide open, and Baker was scrambling and he didn't throw him the ball. But this will be another test for the Browns. Can they come up big under adversity or admit all the adversity? Without one of great wide receiver in Rod Street.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, Rod and that. He was diagnosed with a fractured neck. He's done for the year.
Man, that's wow. That's pretty crazy. Let's see. There was that freak collision he had on Sunday.
Then remember Broman, the linebacker?
No, I do not.
That was with the 49ers and the Raiders. It's talks that they're trying to set up a scheduling meeting in that. So they're possibly going to be bringing in another linebacker.
Okay. Yeah, anything to help the team. You look at, they're, back where they were last year, last in the AFC North. If they can get back up to where they were, after all these wins, it's, and you also think about, guys are saying, oh, include Nick Chubb more in the offense. They hardly gave Nick Chubb the ball on Sunday. And there was hardly any big running plays.
If they got Chubb involved or not, with how bad a passing attack is, they would have just came down harder on the running game. So
right.
That's not... The simple fact out of it is we need wide receivers.
Definitely.
Right now, it's pretty much a mash unit at wide receiver.
Right. And then also, you look at, Le'Veon Bell, he may not, as far as running backs are concerned, he may not, report to the Steelers, and they may end up either releasing him or trading him. Who knows?
He had a report to him, I thought, by week 10.
Oh, I'll say I heard that he hasn't reported to them at all.
Well, no. To be considered anything, he had to be reporting to them by week 10, so they still had time on that aspect. But huge thing is the Browns got to find some kind of veteran out there.
Definitely.
In a wide receiver, whether it's Dez, whether it's going and trading for a guy.
Right.
They got to be honest, I wouldn't go after Beckman Jr. after now that contract extension. Not only I think he's a little bit overrated, just a little.
Right. All the on-field stuff that he had going on last
year. Oh,
year.
yeah, then the media and blah, blah,
right.
blah. I wouldn't go after him.
Right.
Nice thought. Yeah, him, Landry, used to one another, blah, blah, blah. Cool, dandy in that.
Right.
Cooper, I would be open to that.
Yeah. He played very well. I know I'm talking about his college stats, but he played very well at Alabama. He was coached by a former NFL coach in Nick Saban.
But for this week, they might have to go and try to get Duke Johnson out there and to be a slot guy or something.
I say they gave that a try against the Chargers, and that sort of worked. But I feel like they got to teach some of these running backs how to block because, when you've got the play action and you see Nick Chubb or Duke Johnson go out and try to block, the linebackers are just tossing them aside like rag dolls. They're not.
Not per se. Especially that one blitz up the center that they picked up the one guy, but the second guy that wasn't accounted in the blocking scheme. Which it's not really the running back. That's really the protection scheme / really on the QB and not taking an account on it.
Right.
Because in a way, yeah, sort of the offensive line sort of come up with the protection scheme, but they get sort of override by the guy behind the center.
Right. And you also, Baker could very easily audibled out of that and switched it up to fix the protection, which I actually have not seen do any audibles at all.
Oh.
I mean, and the crazy thing is, looking at the game against the Ravens, I said this I think it was a week ago about, there was his helmet, the speaker in his helmet was not working. So he had to go back to his college days of who was it, Todd Haley had to start giving, do hand signals and stuff like what play to run. That blew my mind, in my opinion, for Baker, But, that all goes into, football, you got to work with what you've got, and if that means, going to a college style of, giving out hand signals and that sort of thing. But
Plus, they thought in the NFL, the other team, if they can't fix theirs, they go to the opposite team and tell them they can't do that.
what, the hand signal?
No.
Oh,
They went to the Raiders and said, on your offense, whatever possession, you can't use whatever that.
what, the speaker?
I swore that was a thing in the NFL.
Right. But, I mean, it's, and I was, the one thing I was happy about on Sunday, despite the loss, that Baker actually did not fumble the ball, when he was under center. He did not fumble the ball, which I thought was a huge improvement for him. I mean.
But he was missing dudes wide open and all that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but hopefully the officials are fair this week against, in the game. Hopefully they don't miss any calls because, in my opinion, if another ref misses a call, I feel like Hugh Jackson or one of the Browns, coaches or whoever's are going to go to the NFL and say, hey, these officials are missing, calls that, even the fans are recognizing that, it's an obvious thing. Because, in the past, you look at the game.
But it goes back to one thing. If we don't put ourselves in these positions of it coming down to that, it doesn't affect us.
Right.
Like, can our offense actually score a touchdown in the first quarter besides one out of how many games so far?
1 out of 6. Yeah. Because it's week 7.
It would be very funny to actually see them put up 10 points.
Right. I mean, you think about it, they put 42 up against the Raiders. I mean that was.
I thought that was the first time they actually scored a touchdown in the first quarter.
I think it was.
Which that's still pathetic.
Right.
Yeah, if our offense actually shows up in the first quarter or even the first half at least, we actually have a shot. And then, if it goes on these field goal things and at the whole first quarter or first half, we're screwed.
Right. I mean, if they can score 10 points off field goals, great. And if they get scored 10 plus off field goals in the first half or in the first quarter, okay, that works. I mean,
but it depends what the opposite team's doing in that.
Right. And you also think about, Tampa, they don't have that great of a defense. When their defense isn't, that, spotlight defense, that star defense, if you will. I mean, they've got...
even the Chargers, they weren't that great.
Right. I mean, and they were without Joey Bosa, even. I mean, you think about that, I mean...
But it just comes down to one thing. Can our offense actually move the ball and actually take advantage, especially if you're down there in the 30 or less?
Right.
Can he actually score a touchdown?
I mean, and even if they can capitalize off penalties as far as the defense, with the opposing defense, can the Browns offense capitalize on those, offside penalties or pass interference penalties or any sort of penalties that go against the defense? Can the Browns capitalize? Because you think about it, the Chargers had some penalties and the Browns were down, as you said, into the 25, even into the the red zone, and they couldn't capitalize. They ended up having to settle field goals. But the only thing I would say as far as the field goals is thank God Greg Joseph can make a field goal. Because when I was watching the game, it wasn't like any of his field goals were like near misses. They were down the middle, confident makes,
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that came out of that is that he can actually make a sure field goal. It wasn't like it was did it go through? Did it not? But I think it'll all depend on what the Browns decide to do at quarterback. Will they keep Baker Mayfield as the starter, or will they bring back Tyrod Taylor? I think that'll be the biggest question mark is what will Hugh Jackson do, come tomorrow, and getting closer and closer to the game, will he have Baker be the starter, or will he, change the starting quarterback and have Tyrod Taylor be the starter?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that'll be the only big question is how will they incorporate both guys? Like, will they have Baker come in for a couple series and then have Tyrod just switch it up to try to confuse the defense? I mean,
it all comes down to our wide receivers performing.
Right, and not missing balls.
Callaway stopped dropping his garbage.
Right.
I almost want to throw rocks at him.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Braylon Edwards a little bit. Just not. I mean, he can catch the ball. Don't get me wrong. He can catch the ball. It's just that one catch the one ball he should have caught in the end zone. In my opinion, he wasn't giving it his all with that play, because if it was someone else.
Well, in a way, he was pulling like a Josh Gordon during the Pittsburgh game, that he wasn't going and pulling his whole weight of trying to break free of coverage.
Right.
Especially the one time he was with Hayden.
Right.
How tall is Josh Gordon and how big?
Like 6'3", I think.
He should be able to beat, because Hayden's like 5'8", like 180 or something pounds.
Gordon's 6'3", 225. And then
yeah, he should be able to beat that dude.
And then
muscle off of him.
And then Joe Hayden is, let's see,
Like
he's 5'11".
Oh, 5'11"?
Yeah,
I thought he was shorter than that.
Yeah, Hayden's 5'11", but
so yeah, he should have been able to beat him on things.
Right. And you also think about
the past few weeks have been disappointed with Callaway's way of him performing.
Right.
He hasn't been giving it his all, or just being dumb, or not looking things in and that.
Right. You also think
if he has to look in the ball and catch it,
yeah,
do it.
Right.
I don't care about the damn extra yardage. Just catch the damn ball.
Right. And also, here's another thing for you. Jarvis Landry's actually also 5'11". So, I mean, it's a... it'll be... If the Browns can... In my opinion, if the Browns can put up 2 touchdowns in the first half, there's a possibility they could win the game. If they do not... If they have to settle for field goals every time they're in the red zone,
their defense has got to step up.
Oh yeah, with Schobert and Myles Garrett has really been. I think he's really surprised everybody. Just how good he really is. I mean, not playing all of last year.
Even though he didn't get that much to QB, he did enough.
He did enough to.
Or even here and there, getting the holding penalties. Which
Right.
That's all you can ask. If you can't get there, if you can do that kind of disruption,
Right.
sometimes you take it and run.
I think the one thing that surprised me was that Denzel Ward wasn't all that active. You didn't see a pick from him or any big plays from him, which I was very surprised about. But yeah,
here and there he was in the right situation or around the ball to come up with a few of them.
Right. And I mean,
some he actually did himself. I'm not going to take away. It sort of went both ways so far this year with them.
And you also look at Jabril Peppers. He had a couple great punt returns. I think everybody hopes that he shows what he did at Michigan. The punt returns. I mean, just getting returns down
especially with Cribbs now in his pocket. That
right. Cribbs knows everything. I mean,
except the rules had changed since he's been in the league. But
right, as far as the kickoff and there's no running start and that whole thing.
So
I mean, I think the other thing is that I was happy to see that when Peppers when the ball was coming to him with the punts, like he wasn't calling a fair catch if guys were like there was plenty of field in front of him. He wasn't calling a fair catch. He was taking the ball. I mean, whereas in previous games he would if guys there was wide open field 15 yards in front of him, he was calling a fair catch, and then he was kicking himself in the back end, like, oh no, why did I do that?
But every once in a while, it's not the most horrible thing.
Right. I mean, you think about there was that kick catch interference that was called against the Chargers. I mean, if Peppers can get those kinds of penalties called on the kicking team, great. I mean, and if Brandon Colquitt can be a great punter like he was, where he was they were downing balls like inside like the 2-yard line. I mean, in my opinion, if the Browns could have won the game on Sunday if their defense would have kept the Chargers backed up. Because I mean, there were points during the game where the Browns could very easily scored a safety. Like they could have very easily.
It's here and there. The offense is just saying for field goals could have actually scored 7.
Right, instead of 2. But I mean, and then you also talk about how big. I mean, you look at from last year to this year as far as the defense. I mean, there's Myles Garrett. He will be the defensive player of the year, flat out. I'm gonna putting that prediction out right now, because he is the. I mean, I'd call him the conductor of the defense. Referencing trains. The conductor is he controls it.
Yeah.
He's sort of like a boss. I mean, that's how he is. When he's out on the field with the defense, he's like that. He's like a conductor. He just, if there's an opening, he goes. I mean, he'll stay back if it's a pass play, he'll stay back and look to make a play. But if it's a run play, he goes and he will bust up the that open hole in the offense and make plays. I mean, I feel like that. I feel like that's like the first number 1 pick that actually hasn't been a bust for us is the Myles Garrett pick. I feel like that's like the first number 1 pick I've seen that has not been a bust. The Baker Mayfield pick, that we'll see how that goes, with this year. And
Well, you go down. Thomas
right,
wasn't really a bust. Danny Sheldon, I think they should have kept.
right. No, I think he's with New England.
Yeah. He wasn't a bust.
Right,
I still wish they sort of kept him, but
right. And also, who was the other one? Barkevius Mingo.
yeah, well, that was a bust.
He was a bust. Frosty Rucker.
No, he was free agency.
Oh, he's free agency. Okay.
Yeah, he came from Cincy.
Right. Joe Hayden? No. Say Joe Hayden. I wouldn't really call him a bust at all because he did play really well.
He was productive here and there.
He said the injury issues just
Injuries sort of subtract. I would say maybe in the middle of good.
right. I mean, now if Myles Garrett was playing at that time that Joe Hayden was, that would have been a great.
Well, not playing our secondary was a freaking train wreck. So
right. I mean, we didn't have
good
Pepper.
chunk of the years that he was here. So
Right.
not including our inner line and linebacking core was a freaking disgrace.
Right.
So it's bad when you have your corners and safeties always making plays.
Right. And I feel like the one adjustment I think the defense made or the secondary made was, last year they had Peppers playing, 25 yards down the field, almost like as they called it, like a center fielder. Now, like this year, I saw they were playing it more closer to the, to the line of scrimmage, but more of,
Not including you're forgetting even about Peppers and Njoku, their first round picks.
oh yeah, I mean those guys are not bust by any means. I mean,
So
but I mean if
it's
there's-
been some.
yeah, I feel like Myles Garrett. I know he's not an offensive line, but he kind of reminds me of Joe Thomas a little bit, with more of that that physical. I mean I know he's not. I know
He's really quiet. You never see him out in the media that much or making a scene.
right, but I mean I
He
think that's
sort of has that mentality, which
Yeah.
is just,
is
I'm
a
not
good
going to
thing.
lie. It's not
not a
the
bad
worst thing ever.
thing. Right. I mean,
I don't want a flashy whatever guy.
right.
Even though, heck, he went to New York and that for the draft, but,
Right.
he sort of has the same
Right.
thing.
He has that, that the mindset of, okay, let me just keep my composure. Don't. Now, sometimes, he will, speak highly of himself. I mean, hey, you can't you can't get mad at the guy for doing that. I mean, but he's a great, he was a great pickup. I mean,
Um,
I could see him, as I said before, being defensive player of the year. I mean, I could see him being the NFL MVP. I mean, I know once Tom Brady, once those days are over with Tom Brady, I feel like I could very easily see, Myles Garrett getting into the MVP conversation, overall.
That's
mean-
still a good chunk of the season left to see even if Tom Brady would be considered that.
Right. For all we know, Patrick Mahomes could be, this year's
I would love to
MVP.
see that. I just want Tom Brady to have an ego bust.
Right. Because I feel like then he would retire.
Yeah.
Who knows? If he doesn't have success this year, he may retire.
Mm-hmm.
and then the Patriots will go down the drain. That's my guess. I mean, because the backup to Tom Brady is Brian Hoyer, and who knows how much time he has left in his tank. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, who knows? I mean, it all depends on, can the Browns finish at the end? I mean, if they can win every game from here on out, I'm not going to say the word just yet, but if they can keep winning, there are going to be talks of, I'm going to say it right now. I know I said I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to say it right now. Playoffs. There will be possible talks of, playoffs. If they can stay in games and
Still, yeah, it's still too. They haven't been able to win back-to-back games yet.
right, but that was the first time they actually or, I mean, if you think about it, as I said before, a couple weeks ago, a lot of teams took them lightly. The Chargers, I feel like, were the first team that actually took them as that, that powerhouse, if you will, like that team that is just that flashy team, I feel like the
I don't
Ravens, I feel like other teams took them lightly, like, oh, as Dave said, a few weeks ago, oh, it's the, every team's going to be going, every team before the Chargers was going, oh, it's just the Browns, okay, this should be an easy W, but the Chargers, they had that mindset of, this is not, the same old Cleveland Browns, this is a new and improved team, because I feel like if the Chargers would have took us lightly, we could have won that, we would have won the game.
Yeah.
Not to mention that, having that marker, and having Baker Mayfield, tweak his ankle, because in my opinion, if he wouldn't have done that, he would have been running the ball. He would have been running down the field like crazy. Because
Going back to, regardless, I can't go and say because he tweaked his ankle or whatever. How much money is he getting paid? Not that he's supposed to lead the team, so.
Right.
But I gotta go. I gotta go set up the fundraiser.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're actually just about to. We're gonna actually wrap it up right now. We thank you again for listening to the Sports Radio Show here on Lake Effect Radio. We'll see you Monday morning. Have a good day, everybody.